Welcome, everybody. This is Rich J. Tilley, the author. This is Chapter 8 of 10 in Unsubstantiated Advice About Life from a Middle-Aged Man. Punctuality. If you still don't own a book yet, either ebook or paperback, come on now! Go to mybooksandvids.com. You'll see all the links to obtain the book. And if you live in the domestic United States, order it from the website, and I will send you a personalized copy with some cool bookmarks that I'll even allow you to use on your other books at home. If you're listening to this in your car while you're driving, make sure you're obeying all the rules from the driving chapter. If you're at home, go ahead and throw those earbuds in. Let me read to you like a little story. I'll show you how the words were meant to be expressed. A little bit of history for you. This was actually the very first chapter written in the entire book. It has a lot of pictures in it, pretty fast moving, and pretty humorous. Punctuality. Some folks are obsessed with being on time. Others think that it is amusing to everyone that they are late for everything. I have news for you always late folks. It is not amusing to the rest of us at all. Sometimes we try to outsmart this personality type and purposely tell them an event starts a half hour earlier than it really does, so they show up on time. Then they end up outsmarting us by showing up an hour late anyway. What does on time mean? If a friend is having a dinner party that is scheduled to start at 7 p.m., it seems to be socially acceptable to arrive about 15 minutes late because no one wants to be the awkward first person or couple, right? In the workplace, there are rules and regulations that we have to follow, set by our employers, regarding showing up for work on time. Being fashionably 15 minutes late for work every day is not a socially accepted behavior. And then there is the issue of what exactly is considered late for work. Is it 5 minutes past our scheduled work time? Is it 3 minutes? Are we on time for work and not punished if we're only 1 minute late? Is our excuse stuck in traffic a valid excuse, but my alarm didn't go off, not a feasible excuse? In a soon-to-be middle-aged man's opinion, I feel being somewhere on time is a symbol of life's responsibilities. Being punctual is an indicator of our self-discipline, organization skills, planning ability, and self-control, much like the way our FICO credit score indicates. Usually individuals with credit scores in the high 700s and 800s are usually in control and on top of their game with most things. And on the other hand, people that have a credit score in the high 400s or mid 500s operate in a life spinning out of control, being controlled by outside sources and taking no blame for anything that ever happens to them. We have a picture here. There's two credit score indicators. One says 822. Excellent. Your score is outstanding. The other one says 467. Piss poor. Please see a psychiatrist. In this chapter, we will discuss punctuality based on a premise that an employee is expected to be at work at 8 a.m. And at the end of the chapter, we will bring up the topic of running a business meeting. At most companies that involve some kind of time clock to determine the exact time an employee shows up for work, there is usually some kind of grace period that separates what on time is and what on time is not. Tardiness is always a common, habitual, widespread issue with people working low to average paying jobs, such as in the fast food industry, retail space, and warehouse jobs. Some easygoing companies think that if they expand the grace period in order to give more leeway to their employees, that their tardiness epidemic will be eliminated. How is that experiment going so far? My guess is the new give everyone a break policy is only causing the employees to show up even later. Am I right? I wonder what would happen if there was no such thing as a grace period. For those of you having to start your day hovering around a time clock with a company badge hanging from your neck, this next segment may be highly entertaining for you. Meet your friend, the time clock. Do you recognize this evil dictator? We have a picture of a time clock here. Let's dive into our example with a scheduled start time for work at 8 a.m. We will discuss the arrival to work by 3 different employees, Joe, Pam, and Bob, all employed by a company that grants a 5-minute grace period for their associates before they are deemed late. We will assume that either an automated punch-in clock, once swiped with an employee badge, determines what time an employee arrived, and the data from the time clock has to be analyzed by a human being, or that a manager or a supervisor has to track by observation and awareness on which employee shows up on time and has to react to that observed information and behavior. Example: Joe arrives for work at 8:06 a.m. and manager Sue Haskins is aware but lets it go, verbalizing, "That's okay, he is just 1 minute past 8:05. I'm not worried about a few seconds." She states, "Hard-working Joe is here and ready to work." So, just so I am clear in my understanding, watching this from afar, 8:06 a.m. is okay then, right? No disciplinary action required, right? Let's keep following along with the example. Pam rolls in right behind Joe at 8:07 a.m. Is she late? Pam is only 1 minute behind Joe. Sue, the decision maker, stated before that she wasn't worried about a few seconds. So she can't really say that Pam is late and Joe is on time, separated by only 60 seconds, can she? Plus, to add to the layer of complication, Sue and Pam are shopping buddies and live in the same neighborhood. Their kids go to the same schools, and they always spend July 4th weekend together. Oh boy, they're friends outside of work. I smell trouble on the horizon. Here comes the third employee, a Mr. Bob Cratchit, or Bad Attitude Bob, as everyone likes to call him. Bob lumbers in from the parking lot into the building at 8:09 a.m. He is complaining to anyone that will listen to him that his bus was running late again, making him late again. Sue does not like Bob very much because when he finally does show up to work, he is lazy, takes too many smoke breaks, and is generally a source of negative gossip around the other employees. Sue calls Bob into her office, smashes down her judge's gavel, and reprimands Bob for being late. He is on his final warning and gets written up again. What if we intertwine the topic of race into these 4 characters in our example? What if Bob was of a different ethnicity from Sue or Pam? It appears that Pam and Sue are of the same racial profile, close neighbors and 4th of July fireworks buddies. Do you see how difficult it can be when we become a manager and a friend? Also, there doesn't seem to be an enforcement of the 5-minute grace period rule at all. I can't work out the rules watching all this unfold. Do you all see the legal issues that could blow up like a powder keg going on here? How do we move away from all these sensitive, subjective matters? I say If we are drawing a hard line in the sand with a specific concrete time, determine the barrier or threshold indicating being considered on time or considered being late, why not make the threshold the actual on time, like 8 a.m. and 0 seconds? Why is a 5-minute grace period or any grace period necessary in the first place? The employees are going to rise to company expectations and push the limits regardless. Either way that it is handled, a human being still has to make a subjective management call using their own mental faculties and decision-making style. As far as treating everyone fairly, regardless of ethnicity, the friendly relationship with them, etc., the manager needs to only go by the clock and not the excuse, and write up everyone equally. It takes guts to be a manager sometimes. During my time as general manager for $1 million company, no excuse for lateness would be entertained, so my employees were conditioned not to try making one. If I was the manager in the example here, before 8 a.m. and 0 seconds, an employee would be considered on time. After 8 a.m. and 0 seconds, they would be considered late. Extremely simple to understand guidelines with no favoritism. Stricter rules and enforcement will create less situations for the manager. If a company has a 3 strikes and you're out policy regarding write-ups, the supervisor has to carefully manage this area, using their human judgment and compassion, backed up with meticulous documentation for the HR department. I have an emphasis bar. It says on time is defined as being early. So what is considered being on time, in my opinion? On time is actually being early. 5 minutes early, 3 minutes early, 1 minute early. However early an employee could check in without being reprimanded for checking in too early. In most companies today using automation to track payroll data, it seems like all is okay if an employee punches the time clock 5 minutes early and above. Any earlier than 5 minutes, they are in trouble for a time clock shaving scam and hourly wage manipulation. LOL. Let's talk about running a meeting. Company meetings will start precisely when everyone gets here. Most often, a company meeting starts like this. The boss says, "We are just waiting on a few others and we'll get started. I hear a couple of folks are running late, stuck in traffic." The boss is waiting to deliver their very important agenda to the masses and makes everyone else, that is also there on time, wait for the latecomers to arrive before the meeting begins. Sound familiar? This conditioning is a symbol of very weak management and a fertilizer for a lateness epidemic, which will only make things worse in the future. Here's what the boss should do, assuming the meeting was supposed to begin at 9 a.m. Close the doors right at 9 a.m. and 0 seconds. The person in charge should ask one of their guests to kindly close the door and tape the sign on the other side of the door, please. What sign is that, you ask? Well, we have a picture here of a sign. It says, "Meeting in progress. Do not come in. Do not knock on door. Thank you." The latecomers will arrive late and will have to read the sign showing very clear instructions. Their only course of action will be to walk away, and they will have to wait for the meeting to be over. As a boss, knowing that several people on your staff don't seem to value everyone else's time appropriately, I would recommend performing the meeting of the century with extreme enthusiasm. Get everyone involved. Get everyone super excited. Have tasty food available for all attendees. During your very important meeting, There is a good chance the tardy employees will miss crucial information and messages regarding their benefits, their pay, or some kind of policy news. The on-time employees will relay a message back to the ones that missed it, saying things like, "Man, you really missed a good meeting today. The boss was on fire, and we had donuts. Jelly-filled donuts." Implement these ideas and watch what happens at the next meeting when it is called by the same boss. 10 minutes before the meeting is scheduled to start, there'll be a buzz in the room. People will be huddled around the coffee and donuts, everyone watching for the clock to strike 9 a.m. People anxious to know who's going to be asked to close the door and hang up the sign, and everyone curious to know what this very important meeting is all about. The boss is back in control, and the room is full of folks to listen to their compelling message. Problem solved. I have an emphasis bar. It says, don't be late to your own meeting. Your credibility will be thrown out the window, and your future words will mean nothing. If you are the boss at work and would like to initiate some of this advice from middle-aged men, make sure that you are never, ever, ever late to your own meeting. I don't care how busy you are. Your employees will eat you alive, and getting your credibility back will not be easy. They will never let you live down that you were late once too. Also, when dealing with any kind of time clock or lateness discipline, state your new expectations before announcing any new policies regarding tardiness, and always establish which clock the management decision is going to go by. This will eliminate any gray areas. As a leader, if you are running a call online in today's high-tech environment, just make sure the webinar or the conference call starts right on time, please. No sign necessary. Thank you. Unsubstantiated advice from a middle-aged man about punctuality. We are either on time or late. No grace period is necessary. Am I right about this, or just half right? This concludes the chapter, Punctuality, in unsubstantiated advice about life from a middle-aged man. This is the author, RJ Tilley. For more information about my books and videos, please go to mybooksandvids.com and check out the next chapter on YouTube, the very interesting time stacking. That's all for now. Thanks for listening, everybody.